For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really
run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Who or what are you celebrating today? I hope that you had a great St. Patrick's Day and that you didn't drink too much, as some people tend to do. It was a very rainy day here in New York, but today, what a glorious day it is. It's 78 degrees, and we broke records today. Beautiful day here in New York. I went for a walk earlier today, went for a haircut, as I'm sure some of you can see. And it looks like I'm exposing myself today. Very relaxed here today, as you can see. But today we are celebrating, it's actually an awkward day today here on Richard Skipper Celebrates. That's an actual day today. But with today's show, a guest that was scheduled to be here today did not show up. And so I reached out and said, is there anyone who would like to come on? And a dear friend of mine said, I'm available. I'll come on. And little did she know that she would be the only one that would pop up. I want to let you know, if any of you out there want to come on the show, this is Fan Friday. I have a new publicist who I'm very excited about. And she came up with this idea of having Fan Friday, where we bring our fans on and they get a chance to talk about what's going on in their lives. And our goal with this show was to celebrate what is a wrap-up of this week. Movies that you've seen, books that you've read, shows that you've gone to see now that we are rejoining the human race again. And there's a lot that's going on in the world. I don't want to negate any of that. We want to celebrate the goodness that's going on in the world. And yes, there is a lot of good to celebrate as well. We do want to take a pause to think about everything else that's going on around the world and not forget that as well. But I want to talk about a very dear friend in my life, and I'm going to celebrate her today. Years ago, I hosted an evening at the Iguana on 54th Street along with Dana Lorge. Those of you who know me and my history know also about Dana Lorge and the wonderful evening that we hosted together. And every Wednesday night, we brought together the best in cabaret, and it was a party every Wednesday night in the middle of the week. But what was so wonderful about those evenings were the incredible people that we met. And one of those incredible people was my dear friend, Mary Lahti. And I absolutely adore her. And I don't get a chance that often to tell her I love her, which I get a chance to tell her today. At the end of all of our shows, I always tell everyone to reach out and tell everyone to pick up the phone and call those people that matter in your lives. So I'm putting her on the spot today because she didn't expect this, but she's here. Years ago, I went to Provincetown, and it was really the last hurrah that I had at the end of my performing career as Carol Channing. That's a chapter in itself. But Mary and her husband, Jim, they came to Provincetown to support me. And they were there. They were they were there. Weren't you at every show? Sewing the hem of my dress, doing everything, out there hawking my show, doing everything. When I will not go into the details. The world was falling apart around me. And there they were holding me up in a way that I don't think that I've ever given the two of you the credit that you deserve. But I will never, ever, ever thank you enough for being there for me. So today I celebrate you. So thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm on?
You're on.
No. My goodness. Hi.
You are
I thought I
on.
was still beating. Okay, hi. I just you bringing those memories back. It's just like it was so long ago, and then sometimes it seems like just like yesterday. But that first time getting that experience of going to the iguana and realizing that the cabaret can be a welcoming thing, because my initial experiences were not that great. And it was just, I said, wow, that first day I said, I have to come back. It was just fun and so welcoming. And then Provincetown, oh my God.
Oh my God, that's another
I
story.
mean,
We're not going to go
yeah.
there. We're
So,
not going
but
to go
anyway,
there.
it was fun and a blast and a good, funny experience. But yeah, it was great to be there. So, anyway, it's I can't believe it was that long ago, and
It seems
it's
so
been a
long
ride.
ago, but I mean, you have been a guest in our home. We've been a guest in your
Yes,
home. We haven't
yes.
seen each other in so long. COVID, of course, has thrown a monkey wrench into our lives and has thrown everything away. I've been to the last time I saw you, if I remember correctly, I went to see you in this
In the
incredible performance that you gave at the 13th Street Theater. And it's like these interesting circles in our lives, because when I first came to New York 150 years ago, I also worked at the 13th Street Theater. I did many shows there with Chaz Palminteri.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the theater is still going strong, isn't it?
I just saw a post that there was a play, but I didn't think it was at that theater. I thought it was closing or wasn't safe to go in for some. So I'm a little confused. I meant to reach out to them and find out, was it at that theater or at a different location just using that name? So I'm really not sure. So somebody
So
who might be on might know. I don't know.
I do want to say that a couple of things. Number one, if anyone wants to come on the show today, we're welcome. We're going to bring you on. That's number one. The word that we're using today is efficiency, because each day I pull a word out that I want to focus on. So if you have any comments today and you want to use the word efficiency, use the word efficiency, #efficiency, for a chance to win a prize at the end of the show based on one of the guests that we've had this week. But I want to talk about your history, Mary, because you have been, you just did a show at Don't Tell Mama, which the one review that I read was a love letter to you by Stephen Mosier from Broadway World.
I couldn't believe it.
And he went there. He began the review by saying all the things that you did in the show are the things that an artist should not do in a show. But and it reminded me, if you don't mind my going there for a moment, when I performed as Carol Channing, one of the many incarnations, I opened my show with a montage of film clips of The Real Thing by Carol Channing. And Michael Dale, who also at the time wrote for Broadway World, said any person who impersonates Carol Channing would be a fool to follow film clips of her, The Real Thing, unless it's Richard Skipper. And here's a similar review where you are doing all the things that he said that a performer should not do. And the genesis of your show is to come out and do all the songs that were written for roles that you wish that you had done that you never got a chance to do. But the twist on this is, if I'm correct, please correct me if I'm wrong, that these were roles that you had been given, but somehow got taken away from you.
Yes.
do you want to take us there?
Yeah, I mean, it all kind of started when, when you casting directors and teaching coaches, actor coaches ask, what roles would you still want to play if you got the opportunity? And so I was thinking about them and realized, wow, there were so many that I would still like to be able to do. And I'm like, wow, there were so many that I almost got to do, but I didn't get to, that I was cast to do, but something weird happened. So then I thought, well, maybe I could do a show, because after all the years of not doing a show, I wanted to incorporate everything I've learned from history on how to do a show and sing the songs I never got to sing. But then when I was thinking about the stories as to what happened, the songs in these shows basically told the story itself. So I said, why sing about songs I didn't get to sing? I just incorporated the stories into each show and took out pieces of the songs that told the story. And it's just like, oh my gosh, why did I do all those things and commit to these things? And they turned out to be just crazy stories. And
I mean, I wasn't able to see the show, but I'm going to see the show now because you said I can't wait to see it. So I'm going blindly into this right now. But I can't even imagine that there would be enough material, forgive me, for an entire evening of this.
There was more, and we had to cut it down. It was crazy. And part of it, I think, is because of starting off in a lot of regional and community theaters. It was also a lot of it was 70s, 80s. So there was a lot of dysfunctional, well, it always is, but I guess it just depends on when you're young and you're learning about your passion, and no matter what you do, you start to grab at things that appear to be opportunities until you find out they really weren't. So then you learn for them, and
But
hopefully
are
you
these
move on.
things were they roles that you were at the time not ready for, or was it opportunities?
They were opportunities. I actually was cast. I was ready for it. I will give you one example. There was substance abuse in the theater, so the show did not go on because of that. So I didn't get the opportunity to do it because the show was shut down. So that's only one of the stories, but the things that lead up to it, and then there's a lot of situations like that. One person, I was supposed to step in and then decided that wasn't going to happen, and she decided she was going to come back anyway and not let me do it. So there's,
So I'm again blindly going into this. I'm assuming that you, in all of these instances, looked for the humor in these situations, or tried to find the humor in these situations.
Yes, and that I was telling Lenny, who's the director,
Lenny Watts.
I said, I can't do this show if it looks like it's going to be nothing but a downer, and I have to make it work. So I found a way to try to write the script so that it was funny pretty much throughout, so that when the disappointment happened, it was still a moment, but it wasn't like, oh man, and just a downer. You can't do a show like that.
Well, I want to go to the genesis of this show. Did this come about? What was the aha moment for you, where you decided, number one, that you were going to present this show?
I think just realizing that there were all of those shows that I never got the opportunity to do. And then I started thinking about, why did all those situations happen? Was it me that let that happen? Or was it the circumstance? Or was it a combination? And I think it was a combination, where I was so innocent and blind to what could have happened, that I just believed everything and stepped into it. And then after the situation happened, I just said, oh, well, that's life, and kind of just continued on with it anyway. That's kind of how I am in general in life. But it took a while for me to accept the fact that it's okay sometimes to say no. And I finally did say no when the time was right. And I felt like it was okay to say, yeah, it's okay to say no. I don't have to do something just because I committed to it. If there's nothing in the future, if it's not a good fit, politely, of course, because that's just the way I am. And the woulda, shoulda, coulda came because these were all things that I woulda, coulda, shoulda done. But in looking at life, a lot of times we say, "Oh, I should have done it. I would have done it. I could have done it." And there's probably reasons why that it happened. Yes, yes, yes. And when I was just like,
This just arrived in the mail
yeah.
today. You
I
know,
was like, wow. So you think maybe the fact that some of those things didn't happen was a good thing.
well, I want to go
Why?
back. If I'm not mistaken, are you originally from San Francisco? Is that
Yes.
your hometown?
Yeah.
Let's go back to your early beginnings, brothers and sisters. I know that you have a brother,
Yes.
and is it just you and your brother?
Yes. That's all that's left.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you can tell us a little bit about your childhood growing up in San Francisco and your exposure to the theater. I know that because of my love for Carol Channing, that she talks a lot throughout her entire life about her growing up in San Francisco and the exposure that she had to the arts, because it truly is an arts town.
Mhm.
Um, did you, as a young girl growing up in San Francisco, have that kind of exposure to the arts?
No, actually, because we grew up in an alcoholic family.
I did too.
So, yeah, and
So,
I know that you did. So, that comes from, and we weren't allowed to go out. We weren't allowed to go places. We had TV. So that was my exposure. I didn't have a lot of knowledge about musical theater.
mhm,
It was whatever was on TV or whatever we heard on the radio, that. Uh, I started doing a couple plays in grammar school. Then in junior high school, I did plays. They didn't do a lot of musicals then. And it wasn't until college when I took my first tap dance class and just fell in love with it. And it was just a freeing experience to dance. And so for some people, it's singing,
mhm,
but I was too shy and lack of confidence to express vocally. I was always a very soft speaker
mhm.
and very shy. So dancing started it. And then I decided to take singing lessons. And it came out a lot like this,
Mhm.
and it was very boring. So, and then from years of that, I started to develop more into the singing and the acting, and it just took off. I just fell in love with it. So I never wanted a career because I wanted to have a roof over my head. I didn't want to have to, when I heard the stories of I pounded the streets and I didn't care and I lived off a penny. I said, well, no, it really wasn't quite my style. So I would always do it on the side and then got into film. So it wasn't until really I was 18 and allowed to move on my own that I started to explore theater. And then moving to New York, really got to see musical theater. I'd seen a couple of musicals in San Francisco as an adult, but never really got to experience it until I moved to New York. And then show tuned albums.
Mhm.
Had the show tune albums so I could learn from that. But then to really see it live and wow, it was amazing.
Well, and I don't know if you and I have really ever talked. I know that we've had conversations, but if we've ever gone deep into this, and if anyone from my family is watching, with all due respect, um, living in an alcoholic household and growing up in that kind of an environment, I don't know what your situation was growing up, but I felt that we were the only family that lived like that. I didn't. I never had friends over.
Right.
I didn't have a social life outside my home. I am a big product of 1960s and 70s television.
Mhm.
So that was my escape. That was the world that I wanted to retreat into. As I've often said, if I could have jumped into the TV, that's the world that I would have literally jumped into it. Lidsville on Saturday mornings, I would have been.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I know, and it took me years to realize this, but when I left home at 18 years old, I was running away as much as I was doing anything else.
Mhm.
And I could not wait to get away. And I know that you also, being with Jim, have been in a relationship for a long, long time. Did you meet Jim in San Francisco, or did you meet him after you had moved away?
No, we did meet in California, and I had no intentions of, I didn't want a relationship because I didn't see happiness in relationships normally. So that was the last thing I wanted. And we met doing a production of Kismet, which is a little town outside of San Francisco. He was a music director, and I was one of the slave girls dancing around. I always said when I first started getting to musical theater, and I was real shy about wearing costumes that exposed a lot. So, and anything goes. I had on the little halter tops, and then I was in no, what is the show I just said? Where a harem girl. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hardly had anything on wearing Kismet. And then so the more confidence I started having, the more clothes they started putting on me. Anyway, so we met there, and it took a while before I realized that he actually liked me more than just for who I am. And so I was very nervous about it, but we became just best friends and very close. And we still, before going to bed, it's just like, good night, thank you. Always say thank you and very courteous with each other. And decided to get married mostly because of benefits, so I could share the benefits, because we weren't planning on having any children. But we've been able to do shows together. When he was a music director at a Jewish home in San Francisco for the aged, and he had worked there, and we used to do monthly little shows for the elderly. And I've just done a number of things. And he's more on the classical side, but he also has the musical side to him. Mm-hmm. And he he was not the musical director for my current show, because he was involved in another big project at the time before the pandemic started and before other life situations happened. So this show's been 5 years in the making.
Wow.
But because of family issues and deaths in the family and in the pandemic, so when it finally happened, I couldn't believe it. But yes, we met in California, and he was the only child. And since I never went anywhere, hardly, when he lived in Petaluma, which is about 30 miles out of San Francisco.
Yeah.
And so when he would invite me over, I was just like, well, what do I pack? He said, Mary, it's only 30 miles. It's just like, I don't know how to go anywhere. What do I pack? What do I do? So it was to have a relationship I started a lot of things late in life, and that's okay.
Well, I do too. So
yeah,
I know the feeling. Again, being an adult child of an alcoholic, I mean, when you grow up, the layers and the layers that are put upon you, it's unbelievable. But I want to ask, because you didn't have that intense drive in this business early on. And I know, obviously, you want a career and everything now as you move on. Do you think that was a benefit for you going into this business early on? Or how does that affect you in terms of the career that you pursue now? I ask that question for the following reason, because I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in a relationship with someone in this business. I'm very ambitious, as I think you know. So I'm driven with my ambition. But there is absolutely no competition between Dan and myself. And I am very, very fortunate, beyond fortunate, to have a partner who supports me on the level that he supports me. And I'm not talking just financially, but I'm talking the emotional support that I get from him.
Right. Yeah, because you need that. You definitely need it if it's not there. Yeah. And so were you asking about the relationship side?
About the where the ambition is in as far as the pursuit of your work now, and how the two of you balance that out.
Yeah, I think just the fact that we both have the same type of ambition, but not the huge drive. And I'm not constantly out there all the time. And I think we balance each other in that respect, where we're both like mid-level. It's like we seek opportunities, but we don't. Oh, I gotta have it. I gotta have it. I don't have a lot of that like I did before. I just kind of like go for what I accept. And the career part, and I think the pandemic has had something to do with this, is I've calmed down a little bit on that need. And I've looked at that and I've looked at life a little bit differently now. Just like I will go for something, but I'm not going to drive myself crazy if
Thank you.
it's
Me
not
too.
going to there are too many other things in life, and I'm fortunate, especially in today's world and seeing what's going on. I'm happy with what I have. If
Me
I can
too.
have more, if I can give more, especially give more, I will. And I think right now, especially the arts, I don't post on Facebook a lot about anything that's negative if I can avoid it. So as much positive as we can, and you know that because I know that's what you try to do. I think it's very important because there's enough negative out there already.
Absolutely.
Just to try to maintain some kind of calm and support in that other area so that we can survive and so that we can support each other.
It's amazing if I'm having a bad day, as I do, and I write something that's getting under my skin and I post it, 500 people respond. It's amazing. And maybe it's because of the empathy that they may have for me, and I appreciate that, everyone. So, but if I write about a show or someone that I'm supporting, if you will notice, I don't write about a lot of private things that are going on in my life.
Right.
I don't write about, unless if I'm going to see a show, I'm not the person that post about holding up a playbill or something because I think it's like bragging rights or something. When there's so many people that want to see things that they're not able to go see, like a Broadway show or something. That's not me. I don't do that.
Yeah, I'm kind of back and forth about that too.
And I feel that I want to share the excitement of what other people are doing. That excites me. Like sharing.
And thank you for that.
Sharing your review, which I did, and congratulating you.
Thank you.
That's what it's about. To me, social media is about liking, commenting, and sharing. And if it's negative, deleting it or hiding the post. That's what I do. And moving on. But whose idea was it to make the move to New York?
Oh, Jim's. He went to Manhattan School of Music in New York, and he always loved it here. He said when he came during the time when it was really not the greatest place to be,
70s.
and for some reason he said,
too.
Yeah, a lot of people who are here, I guess, I don't know if you felt the same way, but he said you just loved the grime and the grit, and there was something about it. And I said, I would not like that. I just would not. And he kept trying to talk me into going to New York. So he said the only way to get me to go to New York was we took a trip to Canada, and they had to stop off in New York first. So he said, all right, so I'll check it out. And that was a time when I guess I had cleaned up the subways. I had AC in the subways. And I had never experienced like, wow, they were coming like every 5 minutes, and people were complaining if it was like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that in San Francisco. Like the transportation was incredible, and there's so much to do, and things are open all the time. And it was invigorating. I thought, well, maybe I could do this. So when he had an opportunity to work in music in New York, and we talked about it again, he was just so happy he couldn't get that in San Francisco because especially like symphonies, there's so few of them, and a lot of times you have to wait for somebody to pass on. Like apartments in New York, they wait for people to die before they can get one.
What year was that you moved to New York?
We moved to New York 2001, and that was the week of 9/11.
Wow.
Which you kind of remember, I think when I was supposed to start working in Tower 2 that week, and I asked for a couple of days off because I hadn't gotten settled in yet. So that's another story. But and Jim thought I was going to leave him and go back to San Francisco after that.
Oh my God.
it was like, no, we had some angels to take care of us because we didn't know anybody
Mm-hmm.
except for a couple of people from Jim from his music. And then his opportunity, of course, got canceled for 9/11, so that didn't happen. And somehow I was able to keep my job and help them open up another office down away from the center. And they said, we don't know if we're going to be able to keep you, Mary, but it worked out. And so now it's been almost 20 years
Wow.
in New York.
Do you feel like a New Yorker now?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I still love San Francisco and I feel like I'm both, but at New Yorker, I feel like the first few years I didn't like myself because I had to be stronger to survive. Like I tried to get on the subway and let everybody else on, and that was it. I never got on the subway because I was just being too nice. It's like, oh, after you. It's just like somebody actually said, honey, if you don't get on, you're never going to get on.
It's funny that you say this because I came to New York in 1979, August of 79. It was so hot. I had never felt heat like that when I came to New York. And I remember I was in New York probably 2 weeks. And I came home one afternoon and there was a special on about the homeless situation.
Mm.
And it's gotten bad again. But at
Yeah.
that time, it was so bad. And I was sitting in this railroad flat of an apartment that I was staying in. And one of the roommates came home and I was sitting there bawling my eyes out because I had never experienced anything like this before. And he turned the TV off and he said, I know this sounds terrible, but you're going to have to ignore it because otherwise it will kill you. And at the time, there was no way that I was going to ignore it. And I still don't ignore it because you have to be aware that it's going on, but you somehow have to find a way to navigate around it in New York.
Right.
It's just one of these unfortunate things. And let's face it, it's bad in San Francisco too.
Yeah, I saw it starting to develop there, and it got really bad. And last time I went, took a couple years ago, and I couldn't believe going past the nicest area that I'd ever seen. And that's the first time I'd ever actually seen somebody shooting up. And I was just flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it. I mean, because you just wouldn't expect that in one of the nicest areas in San Francisco. But based on what you're saying, I was just depressing myself all the time by seeing all the bad that was going on and feeling so sorry that I couldn't do more. And I think that's the thing, is like helping yourself so that you can help others. You have to not ignore, but realize it's there and help where you can, because that's all you really can do. Do what you have enough control to be able to do, even if it's helping one person is something. Not worrying about not being able to help the world, because there isn't anybody who can help the world.
Exactly. So, how long did it take you to feel that you were fitting in to New York? I mean, because I can't even imagine. I've said this before. When my father passed away, much to the chagrin of one of my aunts who got very upset with me saying this, but I feel that if I had come from a nurturing background, that I would not have survived in New York. I feel that after 3 weeks, I would have been. My father even made bets that I would be back home after 3 weeks. But no matter how bad things got, I always said, I'm not going back. Nothing was going to make me go back. But to come to New York in the week of 9/11 and to have that happen, I can't. I mean, God bless the fact that you had Jim by your side. Because if you had not had Jim, I think you would have gone back to San Francisco.
Probably. I think you're right. There was something about New York that it didn't make me want to just turn around and go back. Even, I mean, if Jim wasn't there, maybe I would have, just because it would have been the simpler thing to do. But I didn't blame him. It wasn't his fault. I didn't blame New York. It wasn't New York's fault. And I think just the fact that seeing how people came together during that time was enough to make me realize, okay, there is a lot of giving. It doesn't matter where San Francisco is going to be the same as it is here in that respect. as far as that's concerned, and the people were great. It was just we just finally were within the border that we weren't allowed to leave a border of the area. There was a coffee shop giving away free coffee to anybody that could help, giving them free water, and so that's New York.
But isn't it
I think that's
amazing?
the real New York.
I believe, I want to believe, because I'm an optimist, I'm a cockeyed optimist. I want to believe that that's more of the world than it isn't. I want to believe that. I believe that there is a lot of, I'm going to get teary-eyed thinking about it, but I want to believe that that is most of the world. But how did that change you coming to New York at that time?
Well, especially with that happening, it made me, I'm not a kind of the person that says that things happen for a reason. I'm just not that way. I used to, but I'm just not that way because I think of all the negative. But the fact that happened, experiences can change you in one direction or another. And I just chose to make it work. And it made me a stronger person. And getting the lay of the land and realizing if I need to push to get on the subway, or if I need to ignore something to protect myself or protect somebody else, that's just the way it has to be. And I didn't want to be a victim of whatever the circumstance. So the only way to not be a victim is to find out how to make it work and not to pity myself, and if something happens, I'm upset about it, I'll let my emotions go and I'll let it happen. And I say, okay, moving on. How do I make it happen? What do I do to make it better? It's happened and I can't go back and worry about it. So it's taken a long time to make that work. But I think, like with you, the same thing. You're just trying to figure out how to make it happen, how to make things work for you, work for your environment, for work for the situation in general, for anything.
Well, the other day I was thinking, I was, and with everything that we do, especially like even doing what I do here, the airwaves are saturated. I mean, even as I'm sitting here going live, just as I'm about to go live, I get pop-ups. There are at least 5 to 10 pop-ups of shows that are going live at the same exact time. And it's what it is. They're all going live at the same time. So, and some of those they've got people on those shows that I have wanted to get an interview with or whatever. And so the other day I was sitting here and I'm going, okay, on this hand, I feel like I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. And then on this hand, I'm thinking, what am I doing wrong? Or what could I be doing any differently from what I'm doing? And I'm very spiritual and I meditate and I think about this. And the very next day, my horoscope paper, it said, the secret of success is ... There is no secret to success. You work, you apply, you improvise, and then you repeat. And then you do it all over again. And you hope that people are going to be either interested or they're not. And I think that all of us, we put so much effort into hoping that people are going to, buy what we want. And the thing is, I know it's important to me. It's important to you whether or not you get that role, whether or not the audience is going to show up. But when we stop and think about it for just a moment, and it should be important to us, I'm not negating that. But in the broad scheme of things, it's like the importance that I put into it. Things are going on the other side of the world that are of a graver importance than whether or not I've got 100 people watching my show tonight or not.
Right. Yeah.
And that puts things in perspective for me.
I think you're right. I think it's also balance in whatever's happening at the time and based on what's time changes. Sometimes it's going to be a highlight for you and anybody. And then sometimes it's not quite right depending what else is going on. So when you were just saying, you're thinking about what you're doing wrong, but not really wrong, but what can you do different? You think about how efficient you are. Got that in there finally.
Yes.
But how efficient you are, and that's what helps keep things going forward. And it's just a matter of the timing of things. And I said I don't really believe in there's things that happen for a reason, or things happen because they happen. But what I do feel is that sometimes things may happen more so when you're ready.
Well, I want to ask you this. Having now created this show, congratulations, great reviews.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you've created the show, and now looking back on this piece of art that you've created, and looking at these pieces, and I'm sure that at one point you may look at all these different episodes in your life, and you may have looked at them through the lens of what was happening at that moment. Do you look at those situations now through a different lens?
Yeah, I do. I do. And one of the things I actually say at the end of the show is, do I regret any of those experiences? And I don't. Because through those experiences, I did learn something. I met great people. Some of them not so great, but a lot of them I did meet were great.
Mm-hmm.
I learned, I got to know the show. There was something positive. I tried to find something positive about each experience.
And you got this show out of it.
And I was going to say, and after all that, look. So, hey, it may take a while, but it all comes around full circle eventually.
Do you write, Mary, at all? I mean, are you a writer?
But not, I've been known to be a good writer, but I've never really pursued anything other than a couple of things in a newspaper blog or in a small little thing in a poetry book and other things, just simple little things.
But do you think that this would ever make a book?
Oh, that and a movie and a Broadway show.
Why not? I think these life lessons of every actor or actress has these situations that they go through. I mean, there are moments in I had a situation. I remember a stock job, for example, where I was making $100 a week. And it was a nightmare. The guy who was the lead, I was very young. He was interested. I wasn't. And he made my life a living hell. And it was that whole summer was one of the worst experiences of my life. I'm talking about me too. Now, it was a horrible experience for me. And when I went to the lead producer and told her what I was going through, she didn't believe me. And she told me that if I left the show, I would never work again. And I believed her.
Yeah.
Young, and at that moment in my life. But now I'm a different person. I would have said, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Get it. It's not worth it. And what I went through in Provincetown without going into details. I'm a different person now.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, with any of those situations, if you would have done anything differently looking back.
There was only a couple of them where I think if I had not been so blindsided and starry-eyed, that I would have actually said, nah, this is really looking at the signs and realized that I shouldn't have done it. One of them, I had so many opportunities to say no, and I didn't because told myself I'm not a quitter. I can't leave the show with all the stuff that was going on. And that stuff wasn't even in the show I was talking about. But now it's just like, well, no, it's not worth it. Why do I really think that I'm the one that's going to hold everything together? What makes me think that I'm the one that's going to hold it together? Because I want people to think that I can commit. I can commit, But if you can't produce everything that you promise either, why should I continue with that commitment?
So, Mary, we're going to do our little wrap up Friday. We're going to have a little fun here. And while we're doing this, everyone's, again, use the word efficiency. If you use the hashtag efficiency, you'll get a chance to win a prize. I've got this. This is one of my favorite things here. Let me bring this on camera. It's called the National Holiday Calendar. And I'm going to go over some of the holidays for today. And I want you to say the first thing that pops into your mind about some of these crazy holidays today.
Oh,
So today is Awkward Moments Day. So what was your most awkward moment on stage?
all right. Well, I'm going to give away one of them because it's, well, no, I'm not going to give away. I'm going to use another example. I actually, when I was doing Anything Goes, and I was on the stage dancing, and this happens, I guess, to many people, but a part of my top had fallen off, and and people were clapping, but I thought they were clapping because they were all dancing so great, but it was because of the top that fell off. At least they weren't booing, so I guess that's something.
So today, and this is for both of us here, today is National Forgive Mom and Dad Day. Is there anything that you would want to forgive your mom and dad for?
I would have to say that I would have to forgive her for her alcoholism because I did not know about the whole disease aspect of it until I was in college and
Mhm.
really learned about it. I just fought it so much that it took that understanding to realize that a lot of it wasn't her fault.
Mhm. Same here.
Yeah. So,
Same here for my dad.
yeah.
So today is National Lazy Oatmeal Cookie Day, and I know that you're a great baker.
No, I'm not.
You're not.
I
I
know how
thought
to
you
open a
were.
package really well. I can open up that package and mix it up, and I can turn that oven on.
I
I'm
mean,
good
I
at
have
that.
been to a great dinner at your house. I thought you were a great baker.
Oh, I mean, I can put something together, but not from scratch though. But thank you.
Okay, well,
So
it's
the
also
lazy.
National Preschool Teachers Appreciation Day.
Oh,
Did you go to preschool?
I didn't, but
I didn't either.
I appreciate my teachers. You know, the ones I looked forward to going to school and see my teachers, except for the ones that were crappy. But most of them were just, if not for them, you
Now,
know.
today is also National Sloppy Joe Day,
Ooh,
and
sloppy.
that's what we are having for dinner tonight. I'm letting
Ah,
everyone know.
I
So,
don't eat meat anymore, but I loved sloppy joes.
oh. So
Wow.
today is Supreme Sacrifice Day, so that's also
Hmm.
yes, and it's
Hmm.
World Sleep Day also.
Oh, I'm sleeping in tomorrow.
Okay.
Not
So
today, but tomorrow.
So, and now continuing, this is my homage to James Lipton inside the Actors Studio. These are my questions for you. A TV series or a movie that you could watch over and over again.
Uh, Believe it or not, Frasier. Every time I watch it, I catch something else of that writing that's just so clever. So,
It is. I agree with you.
top of the head, that's just what came.
What was the biggest upset that you encountered working on your show?
Just, I think wondering, would anybody really care? Is this going to really come through and make sense? I just constantly always wondered, is this going to make sense? Am I laughing because I think it's funny, or is it really going to come across like it should?
Wow. What? But did it turn out to be an upset?
No.
No, audiences love it.
Yes.
What
And that's what made it worth it. So,
what is the recurring dream that you most enjoy?
this is actually true. Eating ice cream.
Really?
I'm talking about a real dream.
Ah.
But you're talking about a life goal dream.
Yes. Do you know that I gave up ice? I have not had ice cream since July,
No, really?
and
Just
it's one
ice
of my
cream?
talk about supreme sacrifice. I love
Wow.
ice cream. I haven't had any ice cream since Provincetown.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah,
Well, that's something.
that's a sacrifice.
Yeah, I'm not giving that up yet.
What is the best and worst thing about the day that you had before coming on today's show?
The worst part of the day is that I found somebody had hacked into my Starbucks card and took all the money that was put out I got a gift card, like $80 worth, and it was gone, but then I got it back. They were able to stop it. So I say that was the worst part. And then the best part was hearing, would you like to be a surprise guest on my show today?
Oh, wow.
Richard Skipper.
And a solo guest at that.
Who knew? See how things just kind of work out sometimes? And I have just been so busy doing all this stuff all the time, and just like happened. So thank you for that.
Well, it's a pop-up show, so it happens, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I want to ask, when were you the most moved by a ceremony?
Oh, wow. I would say, I mean, there's weddings, but I would say that there was there was a ceremony for Jim, actually, where he won an award, and it was just so timely, because I mean, he's another person that can just give so much, and then things don't just happen, and they should happen. And so he won an award for his music, and it was just finally time for him to get that. So it was just so heartwarming to finally see him get what he deserved after all this time. You know, awards are awards. They're nice to have, but to finally be recognized for something, it was just so special to be able to finally see him after all this time get up there and be able to accept something that he well deserved.
That's beautiful. That's great. What are the best? What was the best and worst letters that you ever received in the mail?
Oh, the worst was when I found out that I was going to have to pay, that the government was going to take all the money I put in an escrow to buy a house. And they said that I couldn't, this is too complicated. I can't explain it quickly enough. So let's scratch that one.
No, I want to hear.
Okay, all right.
You're doing well.
We had money in escrow. And then when the time came, the loan was going to take longer than we thought. The house was going to take longer to get. So I got permission from the bank to extend the escrow time frame, because if you don't do it in time, then the government considers that money as you took it out, and you can't put it back in your retirement. So we got permission, and then the time came, and the government said, well, you're going to have to pay 50% of the taxes on that because it's income. No, it's not. We want to put it back in retirement. They said, no, you can't do that. And I fought the government for a year. And at the very last minute, the positive letter said, well, you won. You can put it back into retirement. We will not be taking 50% out.
Wow.
But I had to fight. There's so many letters. I mean, the files are just probably like this.
Oh, trust me, I know.
Of letters and letters and letters saying, fighting me. This happened. I did this. I made sure of this. And luckily, I have it. For everybody out there, write down dates, times, names every time you make a phone call to anybody, so that you have something to go back to, because that saved me.
Wow. That's amazing.
Just writing it every time I'm on the phone with anything, just for a little note, just in case, date, time, name, and what it was about, because that'll save you if you have to prove anything.
Wow.
Sorry, that was probably more than you cared to hear.
No. That's what this show's about.
I jumped on the bed and woke Jim up and said, I beat the government. I beat the government.
That's always rare when that happens.
Yes.
How do you desire that others see you at this point in your life?
I think just as giving as I can be. That's what I mean, I don't perform for the money, even though people say you should value yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you should, and I do. But I also want to just know that I can give, whether it's myself, being an ear for somebody, doing a good job, being efficient at what I do for somebody, committing to be responsible and a good person.
That's great.
That's important. I think that's been with me all my life.
You've already answered this question. Beyond going topless and anything goes, anything goes. Well, what was your most, beyond that, what was your most Freudian moment on stage?
Oh shoot. Oh gosh, and there were a couple of them. I mean, I missed an entrance once because my costume got stuck onto something, but it was so minor it didn't really make a difference. I can't think of anything major. I'm at a loss. I'm sure I'll think of it after we
Okay.
go offline.
What is the best thing that you feel that you've ever done for your community? And it could be the theatrical community, cabaret community, or any other community beyond that.
I guess what I try to do, if I can volunteer my time, most of it's for the arts, because there's things that I can do. There's a lot of things as far as volunteering that I can't do. So if it's administrative, if it's volunteering for doing certain things, most of it's for the arts. They need it everywhere. So if I can find some place where I can fit in to do it, I really believe for myself, I try to volunteer where I can. And that's, I think, probably the best, because so many people need that everywhere. So if there's something I can do and I have the time and I have the physical ability to be able to do that, I will. Most of it is in theater, because that's a skill set that I can actually contribute to the most, except for things like soup kitchens or things like that. But
That's
yeah.
great. Now, before I ask my last question, will you be doing your show again? Do you have a date set? And if
yes, I have 2 dates that were just added because I did keep getting people to ask me to please do it again. So I said, all right. So I added March 30th at 7 and April 6th. And those are really the dates. That's going to be it.
will you send the information? Well, don't say that's it, because you never know.
That's it for now.
For now.
That's right. I try never to say never.
Send
Except for
those.
jumping off a
Will you
cliff.
send the information to me so that I can get that information on YouTube? So
I'd be happy to.
that'll be great. And my last question for you is: are you a fighter?
I would have to say yes.
Okay.
I think I am a fighter.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to give away a prize, and we're going to let someone pick this. And this is how it works. And my hands are going here, so you know that I don't pick the winner.
I get the name.
And it's Pam Stubbs. She wins every time.
What?
She wins. She shows up at every single show, and she wins. So Pam.
Oh, congratulations, Pam Stubbs.
We'll see what happens when you show up. So Pam, private message me, and we will figure out what your prize is going to be. She's got a treasure trove. She can start an eBay Richard Skipper store. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to bring you up a little larger. Don't go anywhere for a moment. I want to thank everybody for watching. Mary, this was a nice. The questions weren't too tough, were they?
They were okay. Afterwards, I'm going to say, "Oh, I should have done it this. I could have done it this."
It was perfect. I'm glad that no one else showed up today, because it gave us a one-on-one. No, I love it. I want to thank everybody who showed up. I want to say that Mary Lahti was very efficient today.
Well, thank you, as were you, and as everybody who showed up.
So thank you so much. I want to thank everybody for showing up. It means a lot to me, and I'm sure that I can say the same for Mary. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave a comment on YouTube, because that will raise the level of this show. Share this with your friends if you don't mind. Tell your friends about the show, and check out all the other shows that we're doing. And also, I end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list and go to the 9th name that pops up and reach out with a phone call, not an email message, not a private inbox message, not a private, not a private message, but a phone call, and let that person know what they mean to you. As our dear friend Sean Moniger says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. So, Mary, I'm going to leave the screen and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything you want to say about anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message you want to leave everyone with today. Don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you say goodbye, the credits will start to roll.
Okay.
Mary, I love you. And I want you to know that.
Much, Richard.
And would you give Jim a big hug and a kiss for me tonight?
I will.
Thank
I will.
you.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. Thank
All
you.
right.
And good night, everybody. And
Good night.
Mary, it's all yours.
All right. So thank you, everyone, for listening today. And I guess just to think about the whole woulda, shoulda, couldas in life, because as we were talking about this today, just made me think about it even more so. And not going back in history and worrying about what should have happened or what could have happened, but just to think about what did and then move on from there, because you can't go back. You can only move forward. So on that note, have a good weekend, enjoy the day, and good night. Thank you.